Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be dealing with something that pretty much every homeowner probably has to deal with at some point. A leaky hose bib. On this one, this is a globe valve. The homeowner attempted to tighten the packing nut and actually cracked the collar there. So we're going to be ripping that valve off and putting on a new one. Now the first step is to make sure you have the right parts, especially if the homeowner bought them, which is this case. So we have a 1/4 turn hose bib from American Valve. You got 1/2 inch pipe threads on the outside, and you got a 1/2 inch sweat on the inside. So this is a pretty versatile valve. The only thing I don't like about these is they're not full port. If you see inside there, that opening is not the full diameter of the pipe. So you'll have some restricted flow here, but it's not tragic. It's all they had in stock. Let's go shut the water on. Gate valves, I hate these things. This one looks pretty new though. Hopefully it works. One thing I like to do with gate valves, because they rarely seal correctly, notice I left that hose bib on there. So if any water does come up, trickle through that gate valve, it's going to come right out that hose bib. Start opening fixtures so we can get the water out of the system. You're not going to be able to remove this valve until all the water's out. So this ain't going to do. Can't be any water dripping anywhere. So I'm going to go open a couple fixtures inside the house to get purge any air out of the system too. Alright, the dripping has stopped. I've wet the surrounding paint to minimize the damage to the paint. I already warned the homeowner it's probably going to get messed up just because look how close that thing is to the wall. I'll do my best, but yeah, so now we just got to get the torch and get it hot and then yank it off. I'll show you guys the start of that process. What I usually do is I'll have my map gas torch ready and a set of channel locks to yank the valve off once it starts to get warm enough. You get the idea. Okay, the valve is off. I like to have a bucket of cold water nearby before you shut the water off, just to dunk hot plumbing parts into. Now it's time to clean off that stub and put the new valve on. If you have a lot of solder caked up on the pipe, what you can do is after you take the valve off, heat it up briefly with the torch, take a wet rag and just kind of twist it off. Be careful not to touch the pipe with your hands, obviously, but normally the wet solder will either fall off, as you can see there, or get caught in the rag. So that saves you a lot of cleanup time. Now the most important step, the prep work. So you got to use a pipe brush or emery cloth or anything abrasive and clean this and clean the inside of that valve too. Even if you think it looks clean, it's really not. So just do a really good job cleaning this up, because this is going to make or break your solder joint. It's just like that too. So twist that into the brush inside the valve. Again, you want this to be super clean. Now you want to apply some flux to the inside of the fitting and to the pipe. I like this flux. It's this flux and this solder, Harris Stay Bright number 8 and Harris Stay Clean. I've never had a joint leak when using this stuff. It's not cheap. I think it's $60 for the 2 of these, but you can use it on pretty much anything. It's super strong. Okay, I got the flux applied. I also took the handle off just to avoid damaging the paint, because we're gonna get this thing pretty freaking hot. And we just slip it on there like that. Make sure it's straight up and down. Once you solder this on, you're not really going to get an opportunity to correct it. So now's the time to get all that worked out. Now when you're soldering, I like to wrap these things, the valve, usually this portion forward, in a wet cloth. I mean, they could take a lot of heat. I've never actually damaged one of these before, and I've sweated on hundreds of these. But you don't want to risk it, especially if you're kind of new with this. So take a wet rag, wrap it around the body of the valve. I'll show you. So about like that. Also, you always want to solder the valve in the open position, because the body is actually contacting more of the valve and it can wick heat away faster, so you lower the risk of damage. Now I'm going to heat this up. Unfortunately, I can't show you it on a tripod here, but just heat it up with the torch, get it nice and warm. Don't get it like boiling hot or melting or glowing or anything like that. It doesn't need to get that hot. Then you're just going to dip the solder on. I'll try to show you the solder dipping process, but I don't think it's going to work out. I'm just going to heat the valve. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit just because I don't want to damage any more of the paint than I already have. Let's do something like that. And just move the torch around, get it uniformly hot all the way around. You'll see the flux melt. That's good. Then you got to allow your joint to cool and just wipe it off with a rag. Pretty easy. And make sure you don't actuate the valve until it's room temperature. You don't want to turn on a super hot valve with hot insides. You can damage the seal. So wait for it to cool down fully before you operate it at all. And then when everything cools off, just turn the water back on. Problem solved. Anyway, hopefully you guys found that helpful. If you did, please subscribe. Actually, before I go, I actually did the exact same job just a couple feet away, but this one was a screw-on. So with this one, it was a lot easier. I figured it wasn't even worth filming. You know, we had this old valve here. Simply unscrew, put some pipe joint compound on there. I still got to clean that up, and screw it back in. This one was being replaced because the homeowner lost the handle, and it feels like the valve is seized anyway. And again, that's a much better valve. Anyway, so that's how you do it. If you like this video, please subscribe and stay safe.